Hello, welcome to GP Podcast. You know, we're all chasing this dream, right? The dream of running these incredibly powerful AI models right here on our own computers, totally offline, totally private. But there's a catch. There's a secret, really. A single critical mistake that almost everyone makes. And it's an expensive one. So I'm going to ask you straight up, what do you think it is? What is that one single mistake that'll cost you the most when you're putting together a machine for AI? I'll bet the answer isn't what you're thinking. And getting this wrong, well, we're talking about a mistake that can set you back thousands of dollars. All right, let's get into it.
All right, so if you're anything like me, especially if you've ever built a gaming PC, your brain is wired to think one thing: more power is always better. You see a spec sheet, you're looking for the highest core count, the biggest T-flops number, right? You just assume that a monster gaming rig is going to be a monster AI rig. And that's exactly where we all go wrong.
Okay, let's make this real. Imagine you have a choice. GPU A is a beast, a gaming monster with 10,000 cores, but only 8 gigs of VRAM. Then there's GPU B. Half the cores? Yeah, but it's packing 24 gigs of VRAM. So for running a big AI model, which one do you buy? Your gut might scream GPU A, but the right answer, and it's not even a competition, is GPU B. Understanding why is the secret sauce to all of this. And the reason that GPU B is such a slam dunk brings us to the real king of the castle when it comes to local AI. It's not the raw processing power, it's not the number of cores, nope. It's all about one specific thing: VRAM. So what even is VRAM? Well, you can think of it like the GPU's own private, super fast workbench. Now, in gaming, stuff is constantly being loaded and unloaded from that bench. But with AI, it's totally different. The entire model, the whole thing, its entire brain with billions of little connections, has to fit on that workbench all at once. It's all or nothing. And that brings us to the one unbreakable golden rule of running AI on your own machine. The entire model has to fit in your VRAM. And listen, this isn't just a friendly tip for better performance. It's a non-negotiable, hard requirement. If it doesn't fit, it just doesn't work, period. And what happens if you break that rule? It's not just a little stutter. We're not talking about your speed dropping from, say, 30 tokens a second down to 25. No, you fall off a performance cliff. You go from having a smooth, real-time conversation at 30 tokens a second to waiting 10 full seconds for a single token. Your system doesn't just slow down, it basically grinds to a complete, useless halt. Someone on the local LLMA subreddit posted an analogy that is just perfect. They said to think of VRAM as the fuel tank in your car. If you don't have enough gas to get to your destination, who cares how sleek the car's aerodynamics are or what kind of tires you have, the core count and all that fancy stuff? That's just the aerodynamics. If the tank's empty, you're not going anywhere. Okay, so we've established it. VRAM is king. It's our #1 priority. So with that in mind, how do we actually pick the hardware? Let's take a look at the big 3 players in the game: NVIDIA, AMD, and Apple. Because each one has a totally different approach to this whole thing. So you've got 3 main camps. First up, Team Green, NVIDIA. Their superpower is their software, CUDA. It's been the standard for ages, so things just work. It's reliable. The catch? You pay for it. People call it the NVIDIA tax. Getting that 24 gigs on a 4090 costs a pretty penny. Then you've got Team Red, AMD. Their big play is value. You get way more VRAM for your buck. You can get a 24 gig card for a lot less. The trade-off? The software, RAW-SEM, is a bit more DIY. You might have to roll up your sleeves and tinker a bit. And finally, you've got Apple, who's playing a completely different game with their unified memory. It's not about being the fastest, it's about being the biggest. They let you pool insane amounts of memory, like 64 gigs or even more, letting you run models that are just impossible on anything else. But what happens if you've already got a GPU and the model you want to run is just a little too big to fit? Are you just out of luck? Well, not exactly. There's a really cool technique for power users called quantization. And what quantization does is pretty amazing. It basically shrinks the model down. We're talking about cutting its memory footprint by a whopping 60 to 70% with a technique like 4-bit quantization. That's a huge deal. It's often the difference between a model fitting on your card or not. Here's a simple way to think about it. The original big model remembers things using super precise numbers with lots of decimal points. What quantization does is it takes those numbers and rounds them off to simpler whole numbers.
Now sure, you lose a tiny bit of precision, a little bit of detail, but in exchange, the model gets drastically smaller. It's like a magic trick for fitting a bigger brain into the same sized box.
All right, so let's tie all this together and look ahead. Because what we've really done here is we've figured out a whole new way to think about what's important for building an AI machine. If you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this quote. For local AI, VRAM is the floor and the core count is the ceiling. Think about that. The VRAM is the foundation. If you don't have enough, you don't even have a house. The cores, the speed, that's the ceiling. That just determines how high your house can be. But you've got to build that floor first.
And that leaves us with a really interesting question for the future, doesn't it? As running AI on our own machines gets more and more common, are we going to see a fundamental shift in how GPUs are designed? Will NVIDIA and AMD start to build cards that look more like Apple's approach, focusing on these massive pools of memory instead of just chasing the highest possible speeds? I mean, that's got to be the billion-dollar question for where all of this is headed. If you like the video, subscribe, leave a like, comment on what you liked most, and share the video.